It's been on the news the last couple of days.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Mary said she was at a UFO conference 2 years ago, and she noticed this really attractive lady. Now, she goes, hey, when people go to these conferences, they dress like normal people do. But here's this young, good-looking woman, dressed like, hey, a model out of New York, sitting across from her at the table, asking questions about, UFO groups and stuff like that. And then after a while, she sat next to Mary Joyce, and they were talking, about, she was inquisitive about all these UFO groups and how many exist and all this stuff, and trying to get as much information as she could, and gave her business card. And then Mary tried calling her later on and found out that business card was fake.
Oh, my.
No such number, no such zone,
Wow.
Makes me, what I'm trying to get a point here across, Michael, is that she wasn't just involved with the GOP, trying to sway things around with the GOP. She somehow was trying to get involved in American paranormal groups, mainly UFO groups. And I find that so intriguing right there.
Oh, that would be intriguing on a bunch of different fronts. First of all, Russia is quite out there themselves as far as UFO research and technology. So you would wonder why they're here trying to catch up with what we're doing, because they're supposedly ahead of us as far as even the public knowledge of it anyway. But it is interesting to think that they not only use folks in one area of potentially, spying and counter-espionage, but they might use them in different areas at the same time. That would be probably what a deep cover person does.
Well, maybe she was trying to debunk these groups or whatever and sway them or what. I don't know. That part we don't know, and that's kind of a mystery. I'm waiting for that part, to actually hit the news, because I was shocked when Mary said that, that was the same lady. First, she saw the picture of her, and she goes, oh, I remember that lady. And then that's when it all came to her. So it makes you wonder, why would a Russian spy want to know about paranormal groups in this country, mainly UFO ones?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if they were trying to gather enough information about what the American public and all these people think about UFOs. I mean, let's face it, in Russia, like I was telling James, they're more open about UFO sightings than we are. The same with Chile and Brazil and some of the Argentina and these countries. It seems like in our country, we don't really talk much about it. I'm just wondering down the road if they might try to use that as some type of leverage against us, our country, to sit there and say, hey, you American people are being deceived by your government that UFOs do exist and blah, 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 blah. And I just find it so strange that all this stuff has been transpiring since like November to now. Is always something to do with, the UFO type of thing.
Well, it seems to be the hottest topic out there going. When you look on the internet, and as far as the statistics go, people are just thirsting for information regarding what's really going on out there. President Trump's foray into a space force really had a stir going there for a while, and it's interesting to know that on Night Dreams Talk Radio, we have a substantial presence and audience in the Eastern Bloc countries themselves right now.
Oh yeah, do you know we hit Michael? I don't know if you knew, the other night we broke over 100,000. Now that's
fantastic.
That's not all live. Not all live listeners. That's, downloads and, to play back later and, things like that.
Yeah.
But I mean,
right.
I was shocked. And, last night, really, that went over the 100,000 mark because I had Mary Joyce on. We were talking about the Nazis and Antarctica, the connections. We talked a little bit about Berg, all that stuff, Admiral Berg, I should say. And then I followed it up with that one person I told you should get on your show, Ronald Farham. And he was starting to talk about, the court systems and, certain things, wording of the law, like vessel and what that means. He was talking about your birth certificate. The government basically controls you with that. He was going into all this stuff. Now, again, he was a former DOD person for 10 years, and he seems to know a lot about, various things that's, out there.
Wow. Well, you really hit it hard then on that show. And no wonder you had over 100,000 downloads and listeners on that. So we're gonna between James and myself here, we'll give them a run for their money.
That's right. Tell them.
Now, Michael,
if they only knew what we knew.
Now, have you ever saw James' show? It is a kind of laid back, out of his living room, talk show. But you know what? He has a large audience base. He's honest with the people. He has a loyal bunch of listeners. And, like, as you know, doing your Facebook Live for the UFO I-Team, you develop a lot of listeners, and, it's fun.
It is fun. I appreciate you saying that. I don't pressure nobody. I just want it to be a relaxing mood, and the people that are on, they a lot of them, they're nervous. They don't know what to do, and they're nervous, and it makes them at ease, and it's easier to talk, and the words just flow out, and we have a good time, and we learn from each other.
Well, I learned one thing being not so smart the other day. I had a guest on, and they were nervous, and I said, hey, there's nothing, to be nervous about. I don't have that many listeners, only maybe up to about 80,000. And as soon as they hit that 80,000, they started going, for the rest of the night.
Well, you know what you do with your audience, Gary, and James is the same way, is that you put the listeners at ease. It's almost like you're sitting in your own living room talking to each one of them individually. They're kicking back with their coffee, whatever, their cold drink at the end of a long day, let's face it. And they allow themselves to be drawn into your conversations, and I think that's very important.
Yeah, I agree. That's the kind of ambiance mood I want. Just we're hanging out. Like the other night, even my guest George said, hey, it's just like two buddies hanging out in the living room just discussing things. And the beauty of it, a lot of my members and people that listen, I talk to them throughout the week and off and on, and so they're comfortable with me and the guests I have on. So it's like we're just kind of getting together, like you said, and we're just relaxed and talking. We're all friends.
Yeah. What did you say your guest was? Did you say George Takei?
No. It wasn't George Takei. It was George Shopling. He
okay.
He's co-host with Christina George on a show, and he's an investigator. He's been on Ghost Adventures and a few other things.
Wonderful. How did that go for you?
Oh, it was good. It was good up until the last 15 minutes. We got cut off, but then I came back on again. But yeah, it was a really good show. Really good show.
Yeah, wonderful. That's what people want to hear. They want to not only be entertained, but they want to relax and they want to be informed, of things that they're interested in. So right. I'm attempting to do that with the UFO I-Team. That's why we meet at Denny's, by the way.
Right, that's why I said I like that. Yeah, I like that.
Our subtitle for the show is "Watch Us Eat."
Well, you know what? I actually have. I'm going to be honest with you. I have all. I watch you quite often, Michael. And all of a sudden I see you guys eating, right? And, I'm sitting here, I've been on a diet and I don't even think about food all day. And all of a sudden on Wednesdays, you guys are eating, and drinking soda and all this stuff and relaxing. The next thing I know, I run into the kitchen and, grab something I shouldn't eat just so I could join in and eat with you guys.
Well, isn't that nice? Thank you for doing that with us. We slurp on those beautiful thick milkshakes, with the ones where they give you the tin can with it, so you can pour the rest of it in later, and the hamburgers, and of course some of the guys and some of the women in our group, they don't mind having pancakes for dinner. So, my gosh, when people tune in, they're probably thinking, "Oh my Lord, look at these people slurping up food at the same time they're talking with their mouths full,"
Or spilling something like the other night.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew that was going to happen, Michael, when I saw her with that big, huge purse over her shoulder when she went to sit down. Yeah. I knew that was going to happen before it happened.
It was a disaster coming right down the pike, and everybody knew it. But that's what happens sometimes. I got to ask you. I got to ask you a question, Michael. Did you get them to restart the router? No, I did not. So I am thinking of alternatives at this point, just so we don't have to deal with that again, because the folks that actually, work there are probably not the technicians that they need to actually do that. And from what I gather, I love this place, their actual router is up high up on a shelf behind a whole bunch of other boxes.
Oh, wow.
I remember the manager saying, "Well, I've never been up there, so I don't know how to deal with it."
That's probably the problem when you go in there. Routers, periodically, you got to turn them off and restart them to clean it up. Otherwise, you do what you were doing last night. Last night was like every minute for the first hour. But you can get a connection, and I have to research it, but go from your cell phone. If you got a good signal, you can go right from your laptop into your cell phone and use that instead of Wi-Fi and send it out.
That's what we're exploring, obviously. Yeah, I'll bet James has these same kind of problems himself.
Oh, all kind of problems. I was just telling Gary, I've got 4 things that I've got to get lined up, and they all can't have an attitude. That's the weather, Wi-Fi, my cell phone, and Facebook. All 4 of them's got to get along.
Yeah. And you have a sunspot thrown in there too, then you're in big trouble,
Yeah. And then, I did one show about 3 months ago. We had a big lightning storm here. The whole town was blacked out, so I had to go to another town, sitting in a parking lot of Burger King. Did my show.
Good for you, man. That is tenacity.
Well, you know what? I feel like, oh man, my word. So if I got my show, I don't cancel. I've had guests cancel, but I don't cancel. So the show must go on. I went to Burger King to another town. It was crazy, but the show went on. It went on.
Well, James, you're going to love this, because 2 weeks ago, Gary allowed me to go on a short vacation up to the western wilds of the northern Cascades, where there is no cell phone coverage at all or Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And so periodically I would venture down the mountain and find a gas station with enough Wi-Fi or a little grocery store that I could sit in their parking lot and do the exact same thing that you did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's great. Oh. Yeah, I've done it.
No, that's the trouble. Even like with what I do, I feed everything from, my server through the internet. And, and I got so frustrated, I end up having to have 2 different internet companies now tied in to, for one on case my internet, because occasionally it goes down, and they do it for maintenance, and you never know when it's usually in the evening about the time I'm doing my show. So, I mean, I make sure I have now where I can, have something else, because the same thing, if it goes down, what do I do? I mean, some of the guests I have takes me months to get them booked in, and, they promote my show, and some of these people have like a couple million followers, and that's how my show is growing so big. I really feel it's some of the guests I've had on has really helped my show, expand. And I can't afford not to be able to go on.
Right, right. That's the same attitude I got. It's like, it's growing. The show's growing every time. It's not near on the scale you are, but